Welcome to Reframe, the podcast where we're redefining what's possible, one mindset shift at a time. I'm Jess, your guide on this journey to help you to rewrite your story and transform from the inside out. Let's dive into how small changes in the way you think can lead to big changes in the way you live. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about how it is very okay, in fact, essential that we get really comfortable with change. It's okay to pivot. In the words of Ross from Friends, pivot. Change seems to be one of the biggest blockers with the women that I work with when it comes to getting their desires. It's the discomfort and resistance to changing the environment, habits, thought patterns, changing relationships, changing perspectives. But it's changing those things that opens the doors to our desires. And I want to chat today about how we can get really comfortable with change and why it's important that we do. So the only constant in life is change, and I love this beautiful analogy that you'll never catch the same woman in the same river twice. How beautiful is that? Because the woman, also the man, is always changing. Okay, her cells are always transforming, her thoughts are shifting, she's aging beautifully and gracefully. Who that woman is when she steps into the river is not the same woman even a minute later, and especially not when she steps out of that river. You are not the same person that you were when you started listening to this episode 2 minutes ago as you are now. Equally, the river is always flowing. The rocks are moving, they're eroding, there's bits of seaweed floating around, the fish are pooing in it, the temperature is shifting. The person is always changing and the environment is always changing. Time is always passing, cycles are always cycling. It's life. It's the only certainty that we do have. The plants grow, the seasons change, we age, time passes. Even a concrete slab will weather. Like, it's not doing anything, but it will weather over time. Change is all around us, so we need to not only get comfortable with it, but excited by it. Not only see that it's not all bad, but actually see that it's amazing, that it's an opportunity. So if we know that change is inevitable, thinking about that concrete slab, it's changing whether it wants to or not, wouldn't it be better to steer that change, to go with its flow, to be excited by it, to embrace it, rather than to dig our heels in, to fear it, to resist it, to grip onto the shore? It's all in the perspective. Change is change. You can see it as a good thing or you can see it as a bad thing. It's still going to happen. And hey, sometimes it can be a bad thing, but can you know that you're going to be okay despite it? And amazing things can happen because of and even despite it. Think of all the amazing things that you have in your life. None of them would be there if it weren't for some kind of change, which is your proof that in order for more amazing things to happen, change needs to happen. We want to embrace change. So, how do we embrace change versus how do we not? Let's start with how we maybe are not embracing change. Maybe you're fearing it, thinking the worst, not believing that you're worthy of it or capable of it. Perhaps you're repeating patterns that don't serve you. You're not stepping out of your comfort zone, self-sabotaging, avoiding the action that you know you need to take. Maybe you're staying in places like a job or a relationship at the detriment of yourself because ... Think what comes after that because. I'm not leaving this job because. I'm not having the difficult conversation with my spouse because. I'm not implementing that habit that I know will serve me because. Is it because I already said that I do the opposite? Because I don't want to seem flaky? Because I'm scared of the outcome? Because what if? Because I'm not smart enough, beautiful enough, worthy enough? because I've already invested in the other thing, because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. There is gold in the words that follow because. So get really comfortable with that self-awareness and the exploration of using the word because after those kind of statements. So this is the first step to embracing change. It's identifying what the resistance is to change in general, but also to the specific change that you're wanting to make, or that you know that you need to make. Maybe right now you're like, I don't want to do it, but I know that I need to do it. And in fact, let's just go back to the Stone Age time to understand the biology of why we avoid change and why we stick with comfortability despite our comfort zones often feeling really uncomfortable. I always call it my uncomfortable comfort zone, because that's what it is. You know, some of our comfort zones are comfortable, but a lot of them are not. So we fear change because our minds are like computers, using the outcome of past experiences to determine our future decisions. And when we think of the Stone Age times, for example, while hunting solo, my mate got killed by a bear. So now we hunt in a group. That keeps us safe. We're not going to change that by hunting solo again, or in places that we've not hunted before. Or purple berries made us sick, so we don't eat them anymore. We stick to the pink berries or just any berries that we know. It's basic survival. And back then, most change was a matter of life or death. Now, though, there are less bears and purple berries in modern day society, but our brains work the same way. I didn't get that job, I felt rejected, so I won't ever go for a new job again. One business idea that I had didn't work out, so I'll never try starting a business again. Someone once told me that I was bad with money when I was younger, so I'll spend the rest of my life overspending, not investing, and avoiding checking my bank balance. And I say this to help you to cut the shame. It's literally how, as humans, we are built. It's a Stone Age process, but in a modern world. We just haven't adapted enough, but we do have the power of awareness and the power to shift our mindsets. We have the tools to override these basic processes. Okay, so it's not that there's anything wrong with you and how your brain in particular works and that it's just you that's adverse to change. It's all of us. It's all of us human beings, but we have the power to change how we experience change. So here are some questions to help you to identify the resistance that you may have to change. So pause this, grab a journal and a pen, and note these down. Number 1, growing up, I was taught that change was. Number 2, were there occasions where I was shamed for change, or that I saw someone else shamed for change? And this could be someone in your family, it can be a peer, it could be in the movies, in the media. Number 3, I associate change with. Number 4, were there unpleasant experiences I associated with or blamed on change? For example, it would have been fine if ... hadn't changed. Blaming the change rather than perhaps the act, the decision, the perspective of it. Once you've identified these, you're going to reframe them. And this is the work that I do with the women that I work with. But ultimately, it's a case of releasing those old beliefs that are driving you and choosing differently. Replacing those beliefs with new ones and feeling comfortable with believing differently. I can talk about nervous system regulation, supportive tools in another episode for instilling new beliefs, but mind-body practices like breathing, tapping, as in EFT tapping, and humming are great for supporting instilling new beliefs, as well as past version connections like inner child work, inner teen work, letters to past versions of yourself, letters to others from your past. These are all amazing tools. So then we want to create empowering beliefs around change itself. So you could use these affirmations. Change is safe. change is good. Change opens doors. Change provides opportunities. Change enables expansion. Change is the route to my desires. All good things come from change. And as a side note, all bad things we grow and learn from. So technically, it's all good. We also want to shift your mindset around you making changes. So not just change in general. Affirmations like, I'm capable of change. I'm worthy of change. It's safe for me to change. Sometimes we believe that it's safe for others and not us, or that others are capable of change and we're not, or that others are allowed to change, that change is good for someone else, but we're not allowed to change and it's not good for us. So having those core beliefs of not only change being safe, but change being safe for us is really important. Then it's a case of shifting your mindset around the specific changes you're faced with making. What is the specific resistance? It's usually some kind of a fear. What if I don't get the job? What if I have the difficult conversation but my partner leaves? What if I'm not ready for this? What if I'm not fill in the blank enough? Once you've identified this specific resistance, ask yourself, why would this be true? Where has this come from? What is the root of this? That last one is gold. What is the root of this? And then I want you to disprove the resistance with all of the reasons why that change could be amazing. You can change the negative what ifs into positive what ifs. What if I get the job? What if it's the best thing ever? What if this brings even more amazing opportunities? What if this strengthens our relationship? What if I meet the love of my life? What could this lead to? So then you have these new beliefs of change being good and safe and easy, and make these specific to you. You may already feel that change is safe and change is easy, but you may believe that change is selfish based on something that you've experienced in the past. That might be your limiting belief. So everything that I'm sharing in this podcast, they're just examples, but please do use these tools and tailor them to your specific beliefs. So you'll have new empowering beliefs around change itself, around you and change, so you being worthy and capable of change, perhaps that you are selfless for making change. You are a good person when you change. You are setting a good example to your children, to your loved ones, to everyone around you when you change. But also new beliefs around this particular change in question, around it being an opportunity, being exciting, or perhaps that it's no biggie. This is just change. Change is just normal. It's the only constant in life. You want to align these new beliefs with your thoughts, your actions, and your habits. So this takes noticing your current thoughts, actions, and habits. So I'd encourage you to journal on the following. What thoughts are keeping me from change? What habits are keeping me from change? And what actions are keeping me from change? You could do this all in one go, or it may take a few days or weeks of observation and just noticing when the thoughts come up, when you do certain habits, when you take certain actions, and noticing, oh wow, those were keeping me from change. Those were instilling my old beliefs that change wasn't safe, that I'm not worthy of the good things that this change will bring, that I'm people pleasing and I believe that this change is going to hurt one of my loved ones. And then journal on what thoughts, habits, and actions would help you to change. And also noticing what thoughts, habits, and actions you already have, you're already doing, you're already embodying that are promoting change. Because it's not that everything you're already doing isn't working and you need to completely overhaul your thoughts, habits, and actions. There will already be ones that are serving the purpose of change so well. So find proof in your life already. Success leaves clues. Find areas of your life where you're already changing, where you're changing with ease, where you just find it really easy to change. And then notice, what are my thoughts there? What are my habits there? What are my actions there? And how can I perhaps use those in other areas of my life that I'm finding it more challenging to change in? So remember, change is good. In fact, there's an Einstein quote that apparently wasn't actually Einstein, but it goes like this: repeating the same action but expecting a different reaction is the definition of insanity. If we want something different, we need to do something different. We need to think differently. We need to say something different. We need to perceive and view life differently. You guys will get to know this on this podcast if you don't already, but I love a quote. I love an analogy because it helps me to relate to something that I'm trying to learn. But there's a quote that I'm sure many of you would have heard: if a flower doesn't bloom, do you blame the flower or change the environment? You change the environment. Change can help you to bloom. We fear change, but change can create so much magic. As humans, we adapt to our surroundings, to our circles. We acclimatize, and it becomes our new normal. And we may not believe that we're worthy of it. We may feel discomfort, but we don't rattle around the mansion forever. We fill it. We don't stay a fish out of water for long. We learn to walk. If we know that change is going to become our new normal, we're going to acclimatize to it, let's become the captains of our ships. Let's steer that change. Or at least in certain areas, stop resisting the change. There will be some change that you will want to completely captain and be like, I am taking over with this change. And there'll be others that you just want to loosen your grip and go with the flow. Either way, the change is going to happen. And that change can be small and incremental. I'm actually going to talk about the 1% effect in another episode because it's just so powerful, and it really helps me when I feel overwhelmed by big change or I feel like I'm not really making progress. But tiny habits stack and they accumulate to make big changes. So don't feel like if you can't make a big change right now, then there's no point. Or don't feel like those little changes that you're making aren't going to add up to anything, because I promise you they are. Imagine we're adding an extra glass of water to drink every day, or an extra hour of sleep every night, or adding in 20 minutes of a workout each day. Imagine how that would transform your life 2, 3, 6 months down the line. And imagine teaming that with maybe taking away, with maybe cutting out your daily cigarette, maybe cutting back your social media scrolling by half an hour, by cutting out the unkind words that you use to describe yourself to others or when you look in the mirror. They may seem like small changes, what's cutting back on 30 minutes of social media, what's adding in 1 glass of water. But all of those small changes added together and accumulated over time, massive impact. So I would love to know what change you're going to make. Is there a big change that you've been holding back from? Have you managed to identify the resistance to change that you've had throughout this podcast? Are there little changes that you've been making that now you can feel proud of and you can really see how they're accumulating to make this big impact for you? I would love to know, so please do send me an email or come and let me know on Instagram. All of my links are in the show notes below. And I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and that your perspective on change has changed.